Hi, I'm Heather Thomas Campbell. The definition of radical pleasurist is the courageous, open-hearted, badass human committed to experiencing radical pleasure every day, even when life feels shitty. This is the maverick who chooses pleasure over pain, fear, guilt, and shame. And by that definition, I will always be a radical pleasurist. However, I am no longer legally a radical pleasurist. And before I share how I will be helping people craft their own journeys towards supporting their bodies, healing through nourishing platonic touch, and truly recognizing their body's requests and needs, I'd like to share some context. So I met Sophia of Radical Pleasurist in the fall of 2017. She was an assistant and I was a student at a particularly, for me, transformative retreat. I met a lot of people at that event who ended up being really important in my life over the next few years. I started kind of following her work and attended any of her offerings. She had soirees and yoga classes, and she did a weekend women's retreat. I went to all of it. And when she offered her first group program, I was like, hell to the fuck yes. I am in. And when she sent that group program information out, I immediately forwarded it to my women's circle. And that was January 22nd of 2018. And I sent them this email. Hello, ladies. I have learned so much from Sophia lately and wanted to share this with you in case you decide it would benefit you too. I'm not ready to date yet, but I'm still going to sign up for this 4-week program. The program was 4 weeks to feeling powerful and enjoying relationships with renewed pleasure was the tagline. That's what got me. So at that time, I was definitely not ready to date. So I'm in a place where I have to be super strategic about every dollar I spend, but I honestly feel it would be irresponsible of me not to take this training. I hope you will check it out. She has certainly pushed buttons and boundaries, but for me, they were ones that needed to be pushed. I recognize that in order to get different results, I need to do different things, and she's been teaching me different approaches. I hope you're having a great day, Heather. So I joined that group program, and I was learning a great deal. And in the spring of 2018, my daughter, who was 14 at the time, was recovering from a serious head injury. And we were going through a particularly challenging time together, and it felt like pretty much all of our interactions, at least one of us ended in tears. Fortunately, they were frequently at bedtime, so we were frequently going to bed angry at each other. And yeah, it was really, really miserable. I missed her a lot. So I shared the details of one particularly difficult interaction with Sophia on March 19th and ended the email with this. The next day I waited until we were both pretty calm and not busy and brought it up. I knew she'd likely forgotten the content of the argument because her short-term memory is currently on the fritz, but not the feelings. I said I was sorry. I realized I was doing some of the same behaviors that make me so upset when my mom or my brothers do them to me. It doesn't make it okay, but I have to recognize I'm doing a behavior before I can change it. So I was thankful for the opportunity to recognize it. She thanked me for the apology. She also said she knows since she's the only one around, because I'm a single mom and there's just her and I in a 1-bedroom apartment, sometimes I'm going to lose it and it will be directed at her. She usually remembers that and doesn't take it personally. Since then, we've been doing really well. There have been some flare-ups, but each of us is having caught ourselves before it gets out of hand. Even if the initial response is anger, we are taking the time to independently try to understand where the other is coming from, and then coming back and confirming the understanding is correct. It's hard remembering she's no longer a young child. She's truly becoming a woman with fully formed ideas of her very own, and they are often different than mine. She used to be my mini-me in pretty much every way, and that's no longer the case. Thanks for listening, Heather. I had adored my stepdad for many years, but hadn't felt particularly close to him. And I reported this to Sophia in an email March 27th of 2018. It's been a lovely visit. Lots of quality time with Mom, Ainsley, and I. I also got to have a very lovely conversation with my stepdad. I kept reminding myself to stay in my body and stay in the moment, and we really connected at a level I don't think we ever had before. I don't remember the details of that conversation, but I still remember exactly where we were and what it felt like in my body and how much I enjoyed that time with him. Now, typically, I don't transcribe conversations that I have in my head, but this one I did, and I shared it with Sophia on, July 13th, 2018. Okay, so I was reminding myself, focus on the feelings. And then I asked, how did it feel to cry so much and so often that it was part of your identity? Embarrassing. What else? What did it feel like when you were in a situation that felt inappropriate to cry and it just started happening? I would often start yelling at myself in my head, stop it, stop crying, no, it's not okay. There was a lot of other mean stuff I said to myself too. I'm feeling some relief right now, and I honestly can't remember fully what I said. Okay, but how did it feel? Bad. My chest would constrict, my stomach would hurt, my head would get tighter. It was like a blood pressure cuff all over my body, getting tighter and tighter. Wow, that sounds really uncomfortable. Now, if you use the tone of voice you heard in your head and those words on a small child, how do you think they would react? They would cry. How do you feel now? Sad for that little kid in my head that got yelled at incessantly until I started working on changing that habit. You're crying now. How does it feel? It's a perfectly reasonable response to what I'm thinking about. No wonder I was so miserable so much of the time. No wonder my body hurt all over. I was beating myself up every minute of every day. I'm still feeling sad for that little kid in me. I'm going to go take a break and cry for a bit. So that was a transcription of the voices in my head in July of 2018. And what am I illustrating with these messages? I'm establishing some context. When I first started learning from Sophia, I felt fearful, anxious, and in physical pain, and particularly anytime a man was near me. So imagine how difficult that would be. I was a full-time rideshare driver. What that means is I invited strangers into my car for 5 to 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. Most of them were men. So what did I do? I practiced. I practiced body tracking. I practiced the different ways of communicating that Sophia suggested. I practiced noticing the subtle shifts in my experience. I took notes, and what I share about my experience now and at any point really is not purely subjective. I have quantitative and qualitative data to remind me exactly what my experience of life was like at that time. And in the fall of 2018, Sophia invited me to be her business partner. And I enthusiastically and instantly agreed. Quite a bit of my evolution throughout the year of 2019 was done in full view and with the loving involvement of my community. It was on the dance floor, both ecstatic and contact improv. It was at retreats, at workshops, on the Everybody Show, in Radical Pleasurist videos, in posts and programs. And what is my experience now? It's hard to describe in words alone to really do it justice. I can say that in contrast to where I was in early 2018, I have many truly wonderful, caring, supportive, funny, kind, intelligent humans in my life. I feel comfortable around men in a way I never have before. My daughter and I communicate much more easily now and enjoy each other's company from time to time. I'm deeply connected to my body. And while I do still feel challenged with a negative and mean inner critic committee sometimes, it's significantly less frequent and vicious. So, that brings me to the next chapter of my evolution. Having recovered from chronic illness and all the things that life can throw at a human, all within a few years. Divorce, frequent moves, home fire, family drama, job loss, bankruptcy, abusive relationships, single parenthood, child having health issues. I found a radical self-care process that moved me from barely surviving to thriving. By recognizing that the illness and pain I had in my body was in part a reflection of my own self-talk and the choices that I made, I vowed to heal and extend my hard-won lessons to help others. I am now offering my processes, my journey, and my testimony to nurture others towards recovery of full, vibrant lives. My wildly varied experiences, including holistic health and healing, somatic experiencing, project and event management, platonic touch, transformational communication, and radical acceptance of the moment. I am now teaching others to identify and articulate their desires and needs, how to connect more deeply with themselves and others, as well as release that trauma that's stored in your body through movement. Would you like to learn how I do that? Please visit my website, htcampbell.com, and schedule a free 20-minute Zoom session with me. In these particularly stressful times, it's more crucial than ever to put your own oxygen mask on before assisting others. We don't all have the same kind of oxygen mask though, and many don't even know what theirs looks like. I can help you figure that out. So on this free call, we will create your own radical self-care plan that you can put into action immediately. Again, I'm Heather Thomas Campbell, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.